Good morning, world history. Hope you guys are doing well today. I'm going to do your first lecture, which is like, wow. I already did U.S. histories this morning, and I just want you to know that it was a train wreck. Um, I hate recording myself, so like listening to my voice is absolutely horrible. If you've never actually recorded your voice and just listened to yourself talk, you will not understand what I'm talking about. So we're going to move pretty quickly. I'm going to share my screen in a moment. First off, I just want to say good morning. Yesterday, I know that I uploaded quite a bit of information, and first of all, I'm sorry. I'm going to do my best to rein back and provide you guys with adequate guidance. So I'm going to share my screen. We have a couple of things to cover, and then I'm going to do a quick lecture on the agriculture revolution, get you guys started for the week, and then we're going to move forward. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now. I do want to clear up a couple of things on the Google site, and we're going to do that now. So hold on one second. So when you go to the Google site, here's what it looks like, okay? And I know that this was tripping people up yesterday because I was getting a ton of emails about like requesting access. So I'm going to clear this up today. So when you go in here to your first trimester, okay, here's our units. When you look at the syllabus, do not click to save it. It is embedded in here. It'll be here the whole time. So see this little fill handle right here? It is different from the big one over here, okay? So you just use this one, and you should be able to scroll in and down to do everything that you need to do, okay? Same with the writing tips. If there's any problems with this, please email me. I had a person email me earlier, and I just sent them the documents. It's not a problem. But this is to just make it as streamlined as possible and easy for not only you, but me, not having to send a massive amount of emails, okay? And when you go into early civilizations, this unit here, these lectures, you can easily just view them. You don't even have to download them. You just literally can view them. This is what we're going to do today, right? This one is, the one over here is next week, okay? So this isn't anything that you should worry about. With these documents, this is week one's document. It looks just like this, and I'll go into that. This is the assignment for this week. You only have one assignment this week. You're welcome. Um, I feel like being a kind and gentle soul this week. So when you go back, hold on one second. When we go back into here, this is the video that I will post the link to tomorrow. It is legitimately just 3 minutes long, and it just reiterates everything that I'm going to talk about today. Okay, and I'll cover the assignment towards the end of this today, but I wanted to go back over this to make this easy for you. Also, if you go back to this page, all the video recordings are posted here. Here's the one that we did yesterday, and the one that we're doing today will also be posted here as well. All right. So I hope that this makes sense to you. I'm trying my best to streamline everything and make it easy. Tomorrow, when we have our live Zoom meeting, you can talk to me about maybe what I should be doing better to make it easier for you. Okay, so just remember that I'm learning as well. So give me a little bit of slack, but I will also be giving you slack as well. So don't worry. Also today, your Zoom link and meeting time will be posted this afternoon. I have it already scheduled and ready to drop. So be on the lookout for that. I will probably still email you all the link, just a direct email for you to be able to just click it and jump on and say hello. They are scheduled for an hour. We will not go for the full hour. It was just easier for me to schedule it that way, but we will not go that long, I promise. I am a gentle soul, so I promise to be gentle. Anyway, that is it. I'm going to go ahead and cover the assignment just really quick. So here's our Google Classroom. This was posted yesterday. But if you go into classwork right here, this assignment will be posted today, and it's due this Friday. You'll only answer these 18 questions. So if you click in here, this is what this looks like. You'll go all the way down to the bottom. I would encourage you to read this actually, because it gives you really good information. And then you literally will just answer at the very last page right here. You will answer 1 through 18, okay? And I have created a Google form for that. You literally just go through here and you just answer those questions, okay? No problem. Don't forget your name at the top. It's required. So that should be pretty easy. That is all you'll have due this week. But make sure you get it all done because there'll be a quiz that's in week 2, all right? So that's it on the Google Classroom side. We're good on the sites. Now we're going to jump into our first lecture, all right? So this is the agriculture revolution, and it's probably one of the most boring topics that we're going to cover, but it's also like probably one of the most important, because without this, civilization as we know it today would not exist, right? So when you look at everything that comes after this, it is because of this moment in human history that we are able to survive as a society, as a group of people together. Before this moment, people were living nomadically across vast amounts of land, doing just quick berry gathering and hunting, and then picking up their stuff and moving to the next water hole. But this is where it ends. The domestication of plants and animals allows society to come together. There's a couple of things that you have to get, right? A society cannot develop without security from attack, without water, and without food and agriculture. Without those 3 things, you can't have anything else. But before we really get into this, you need to understand what PEGAS is, right? And PEGAS is political, economic, geography, and advances. This also includes social and cultural changes, right? So political is who controls what. So what is territory? What are the boundaries of those territories? What type of government are we going to establish? Are we going to have a monarchy, a democracy? What are we going to do? Is there anything to do with laws or war is what's political, right? So we're going to get into the Law Code of Hammurabi next week. It's stuff like this. But none of this happens without the agriculture revolution, without the idea that I can plant a plant into the ground and it grows corn, or it grows wheat, just whatever it may be, right? Like, you have to have food to survive. You know this. You have to have water to survive. We also know this, okay? Economic is what type of economy are we going to have? Is it going to be mainly agriculture? Is it going to be processing agriculture? What are we going to do? And how do people make a living? How do they survive? What is currency? What makes currency? And then the geography. Where is civilization located? In the beginning, it's located mainly along rivers. Why? Because rivers provide one of those 2 things, which is water, and then it provides nutrients to the soil to grow the other thing, which is food. And is the land mountainous? Is it desert? Or is it around the ocean, right? Along the ocean can be good too, because of ports for trade with other countries that are along the ocean. And then you have the advances. So after all of these first 3 things, advances come last. Why? Because you have to have these 3 things to have this one. If you don't have anything political, you don't have a society. If you don't have any idea of what your economics are, you don't have a society. Geography. If your geography is not working for you and your people, you will not survive. And after all of these 3 things are accomplished, then you can have these things. And out of this comes religious, intellectual thought, and artistic ability. So just to jump forward, when you look at classical Athens and Greece, right, the main reason why these people are able to think and to write, Aristotle, Plato, Sophocles, all of these people are able to develop these wonderful works of art and literature. The only reason they're able to do that is because they have the top 3 things, right? They have political stability that allows them to think and to govern themselves. They have good economic systems, right? They've got food, water, all these things coming in, and the geography works for them, right? Because they have security through mountains. They also have water, which allows seafood and all of these other things, and that allows them to make social change for their people, okay? So the ancient river valley civilizations that we are going to cover the entire trimester of this course are right here, right? And I'm going to annotate them in red. We're going to cover Mesopotamia. We're going to cover Egypt. We're going to cover India. We're going to cover Asia. We're also going to cover Mesoamerica, which is not on here, but Mesoamerica is right along the coast of Mexico and Central America on the Western Hemisphere, okay? But this is our main stretch, okay? sorry. Oh no. There we go. So Sumer, which is in Mesopotamia, the early river valley civilization. This is a quick overview. So Sumer is the one in Mesopotamia, and it's the flooding of the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers, which is unpredictable. There's no natural barriers, and there's limited natural resources for making tools or buildings. These are some of the restrictions on their society just based on geography. Geography is extremely important. Egypt is the flooding of the Nile is very predictable. It happens every year. It's a seasonal flood. The Nile is easy transportation link between Egypt's villages. The Nile flows up instead of down. So the Nile actually flows into the Mediterranean Sea. So all the villages that are along the bottom part of Egypt can literally just flow right on up to the main port in Alexandria. And the deserts were natural barriers for attack. So all of the Egyptian civilization is right along the Nile River. It's small in today's terms, but back in the ancient world, it's one of the biggest civilizations that we see. And then the Indus Valley, which is in India, the flooding is also unpredictable, but the monsoon winds bring water and also devastation if things are not built correctly. Then you have the mountains and the deserts were also natural barriers. And then in China, the Hanghe flooded was very unpredictable, but there was mountains and deserts for natural barriers for protection. And they were geographically isolated from other ancient civilizations. So in China, all of the mountains literally landlock their culture. And this becomes extremely important when we look into why their civilization is able to constantly reinvent themselves. And it's because they have no outside influences. So now we're going to jump into the origin of agriculture. So the cultural ages. Archaeologists have divided the cultures of the past into ages based on materials used for making tools. So tools define age or time, right? So we have the Stone Age, which is, there's the Old Stone Age, which is Paleolithic, and then the New Stone Age, which is Neolithic. So when anybody ever says paleo, think old. Neo means new, it's newer, right? Then we have the Bronze Age, and we have the Iron Age. The last two ages are after the development of higher metals, which create more tools to allow for more survival. The higher the survival rate, the bigger the civilization, okay? I don't know if any of you guys have ever played like Age of Empires, but Age of Empires, you start in like the Stone Age, and then you go to the Bronze and the Iron, and then you go to like the Gunpowder Age. Just to give you an example. I'm an Age of Empires guy, so don't judge me. So then you have tools and technology. So obviously there's more science need to make a bronze tool than a stone one, right? The knowledge of geology to find the ore or and this is all based on trial and error, guys. So there's chemistry that form this material. And then, so even though the terms apply to cultures, there's a great deal of technology that is implied within these terms. So even though I'm just throwing these terms out there, this is not something that just happened overnight. This is a development of different people trying different things in order to find success for their people. Stone Age periods. The Paleolithic period was humans existed by foraging. They hunted, they fished, they gathered wild berries, roots, seeds, etc. A number of people restricted by food available in the area. The Neolithic period is people controlled their own food supply by cultivating plants and breeding animals. So the difference between the Paleo and the Neo is the Paleo is nomadic. The Neo is the beginning of civilization. It's the establishment of homes and villages that sustain themselves and their community. So the major change of the Neolithic period is possible to feed more people than just you and your family. And this allows for populations to increase. This leads to the community development, to cities and to advanced civilizations. And without agriculture, advanced civilizations would not be possible, even today. The Neolithic Revolution. The man's shift to food produced by domesticating plants and animals was a revolutionary change in human history. It's called the Neolithic Revolution or the Agricultural Revolution. But when, why, and how did this change occur? So when you're playing Civilization 6 or Civ 4 or whatever it is, and you research animal husbandry, that's what this is, right? Like when you can bring sheep into the whatever it is, the pen, and you're able to raise sheep and then butcher them for food, or just whatever. The human species, or the Homo sapien, has existed for possibly as long as 400,000 years. For most of that time, humans survived as foragers or hunter-gatherers, gathering wild plants and hunting animals. Just in the last couple, like towards the end of our lifespan, right? Well, this 400,000 years of our species, we have been a gathered civilization. But before then, we were just hunter-gatherers. So the shifts in the human enterprise. Around 10,000 years ago, the shift from foraging to farming occurred in many areas, arose independently in different areas of the world. This formed the basis of advanced civilization in both the old and the new world. Over the centuries, agriculture spread and foragers gradually became restricted to marginal areas. Foraging societies today, they're largely disappeared. There isn't very many nomadic people out there. They're comprised only a tiny percentage of human population. They're limited to a tropical rainforest, deserts, savannas, the tundra, and boreal forests. And there may be only around 250 foraging groups. Many of these are partly agricultural. The evidence indicates that they had a varied diet. This is the diet of like foraging societies. And evidence indicates that they have a varied diet. They were and are well fed, even though they're nomadic. And most groups use a lot of plants in their diet. There are some exceptions like the Eskimo who eat fish and meat. And the study of the Kung people of Africa show that hunter-gatherers have a thorough knowledge of the botany in the area. So they're extremely biologically smart. They have to be, right? Like if they're eating all of these different berries, they have to know that those berries are not going to kill them. And this passes down from generation to generation. As grandparents explain to their grandchildren, don't eat that berry, it'll kill you, right? So it's extremely sophisticated, even if it doesn't seem like it would be. So foragers know which plants are edible or poisonous, which are medicinal or psychoactive, and which are sources of dyes, which are used for weaving or building materials, and remarkable methods to prepare edible foods from plants with toxins, such as cassava, which contains hydrochloric acid. Around 10,000 years ago, archaeological evidence indicates that human cultures began the practice of agriculture in several different areas of the world. Over the next few thousand years in the Near East, the Far East, and Mesoamerica, agricultural flourished. So people switched to agricultural because of a gift from the gods, or the Egyptians, the Greeks, and the Aztecs believed that it was legends. Many theories focus on a wise person or a brilliant sage. This is the Genesis theory from the Bible. If you sow seeds, a plant will grow. The dump heap, which discarded seeds at dump sites, manufacture good manure as good fertilizer, or primitive burial. You bury food with the dead. The last three are variations on the same theme of like, here we are. It just happened. And then when it did happen, they were like, wow, we can do this on our own. So there's some new theories, though, from the 1960s that archaeologists question those older theories. Agriculture was a gradual cultural evolution, not a revolution. And the hunter-gatherers knew the wild plants. They knew how they grew, and they would incorporate farming along with foraging as a part of an overall food collection strategy when necessary for their people. And no need to cultivate because there was an abundant food for foraging. The environmental change made the difference. Lots of suggestion as to what the environmental change was. Some say it was a last ice age, while some say population pressure. As the population grew, this need for more food obviously grew with it, supply versus the demand, right? Whatever the cause, people began using their botanical knowledge in cultivation. So this transitional stage, there obviously is one, right, between foraging and agriculture. Foraging groups formed settlements but sent out members to hunt and gather. So they did both. This permitted populations to increase. The transitional stage lasted for several thousand years in some locations until resources, stress, or environmental change led to the switch to agriculture. In the Near East, for example, archaeologists believe that the climatic dry period around 11,000 years ago brought about a change in this distribution of cereal grains, which is especially wheat and barley. This is important. Wheat is able to be stored, which means you can eat it year round. Applying your botanical knowledge, these foragers gradually changed from collecting these wild cereals to cultivating them into the ground. Many sites of the early agriculture in both the Old and the New Worlds. The agriculture dates back approximately 10,000 years in the Near East, the Far East, and also in the New World, which is Mesoamerica. And the oldest site in the Far East is about 11,500 years ago. This site is the most recent discovery. So here's our early sites of agriculture. We have the Tehuacan Valley, the Fertile Crescent, which this is near Mexico City. Hold on, let me see if I'll annotate real quick to give you an idea. So this over here, you have the Fertile Crescent. which is all of this. This includes Egypt here and Mesopotamia here. And then you have the Yellow River here. And then this one, this map doesn't mention it, but there is the Indus Valley, which is centered right in here. It's this little area here, okay? So the Near East, some of the best studied sites of agriculture are in the southwestern Asia, in the foothills around the Fertile Crescent, which is Mesopotamia. An area around the Tigris and Euphrates River is partially rich. It's a particularly rich area for archaeologists, especially in the foothills of the Zagros Mountains in Iraq and Iran. So this is right here. Right here, see these little dots? That's what we're at. So agriculture in the Near East, barley domesticated first around 10,000 years ago. There's two kinds of wheat. Some of the other crops are peas and lentils. The domesticated animals are dogs, goats, and sheep. In the Far East, this is including China and Thailand. The Yangtze and the Yellow River valleys in China are well-sited sites. So this is the Yangtze River and the Yellow River. Current studies indicate that rice cultivated began approximately 11,500 years ago along the middle reaches of the Yangtze River. This predates agriculture in the Near East by over 1,000 years, guys. So this is first. Other crops, foxtail millet, about 8,000 years ago, broomcorn millet, rapeseed, and hemp. Animals include cattle, pigs, dogs, and poultry. So rice was first. I love rice. I might have that for dinner now. So in the New World, which is Mesopotamia, this is in Mexico and in Peru. The best studied sites in the Tehuacan Valley of central Mexico and caves in the Tehuacan Valley, archaeologists have reconstructed lives on inhabitants of over 12,000 year period. Initially, people foraged, but later made the transition to agriculture. The recent site is Oaxaca, south of Tehuacan. So there in Tehuacan, Mexico City. And then up here's the United States. So impressive variety of plants, but very few animals. So they were very plant-based. Squash domesticated about 10,000 years ago. Corn about 5,500 years. And all of these other beans, chilies, peppers, tomatoes, peanuts, sunflowers, avocados, white potatoes, sweet potatoes. Animals are dogs, turkey, and llama. So this is a huge variety of vegetables that we even use today. I think I had a sweet potato yesterday for dinner, right? Like this is not like, this is old based on time, but this is something we still use today, guys. So the characteristics of domesticated plants, they've been domesticated or genetically distant from their wild ancestors. The domesticated plants are subject to artificial selection to suit human need rather than natural selection. So natural selection is this idea, Darwinism, right? That it just goes its own way. It's natural. We take over on certain things that we need and we alter it. So here's an example. You got two banana plants, right? You've got one plant that only produces very small bananas. The second plant produces these long, good, huge bananas. You don't replant the seed from the smaller tree, right, of bananas. You replant the seed from the larger one. And that is what we call domestication. It's where we take control of what seeds we plant because we know it's going to provide a better use for our community. So I literally just went over this and I went over this. So there's wild and domesticated groups. So while wild grasses have shattering fruit heads which break apart easily and scatter their seeds all over a wide area, a recessive gene gives a tough spike with a non-shattering head. It would be natural for early foragers to gather seeds attached to tough spikes. When agriculture began, these would be planted and passed on non-shattering trait. So we don't want just things flying everywhere and growing. We want it to be structured and we want us to be able to cultivate it the best way. So plant domestication. There appear to be several major centers of origin of our domesticated crops. The majority are in the Old World. Fewer are in the New World. These areas show the greatest diversity of particular crops. From here, most of the major crops have spread worldwide. And here you go. This is our last slide. Here is a list of all of the crops. This is extremely important. You've got your rice, mango, all of these other things over here. The macadamia nut is in Australia. This is where things start. We do have the Great Exchange, which is called it's termed the Columbian Exchange, right? This happens after the age of exploration. We will get there. That is in the second trimester. But just to understand, this is where everything begins, right? And all of this stuff is used worldwide now because of globalization and trade. And some of the things that you plant here can be planted over here. It just never started there. It was domesticated in other regions and then brought over on boat to be planted into other places, right? So you look here, right? So think about it like this. Oats are not in North America, but I had oatmeal this morning for breakfast, right? So it's shipped here a long time ago and it's now grown here. So there's just different things to look at. This is important. This is probably one of the coolest slides you'll see. So I hope that I will also post the Google slide for you all to view. Tomorrow you'll have a quick 3-minute video. Sorry if this went a little too long. I get really long-winded. I will do my best to be better. This is your lecture for this week. I will see you tomorrow. Don't forget to look out for my Zoom link. Have a great day, guys, and see you tomorrow.